Educational Webinar Series. I'm Jamie Adkins, formerly Jamie Parrott. I'm the Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for MedResults Network, and I just want to thank you all for taking the time to join us for today's presentation. Before we begin today's webinar, I just want to say welcome back to everyone as we took a little hiatus from our webinar series this summer. However, now that we're back in action, I'd like to share a brief recap of some of our network updates, including new partnerships, new rebate programs with those new partnerships, and upcoming events that you may have missed over the last couple months. First, in the last week, we launched our newest rebate program with hair wellness experts Nutrafol. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Nutrafol brand, they're actually one of the fastest growing companies in the aesthetic medical industry with their portfolio of products focused solely on the science of hair wellness. Their products are designed for all demographics, and we're delighted that now our members actually have an option to help patients who are experiencing the effects of hair loss from pregnancy, menopause, conditions like alopecia, and even those who've had cancer treatment. Also, in the last 30 days, we formed a new alliance with our long-term partners at MERS Aesthetics, which will allow us to take a more active role in helping our members maximize their savings through their MERS Advantage loyalty program and our own rebate program, which I might add now includes rebates across their entire product, device, and skincare portfolio. And as for event announcements, we are proud supporters of the GVAS conference, or the Global Virtual Aesthetics Summit, which is happening live this November. And our members have access to discounts off registration, and we highly encourage you to attend, as it's really the first time you'll ever be able to attend an educational conference from the comfort of your home or office. So if you haven't heard about it, definitely check it out. This is one you won't want to miss. It's GVAS, the Global Virtual Aesthetics Summit. And finally, what we're all here for, earlier this year, we sent out a survey to our members regarding employee benefits and group health, and a handful of you responded. And while we were pleased to see that 45% of our respondents offered some sort of healthcare plan to their employees, more than half of our members didn't have any plan in place. And of those who didn't have a plan, 84% of you said that you didn't offer it because the cost was just too high. But 94% of our members, that's nearly all of the respondents, said that they would consider a group health plan in the future. So we realize that cost is a major barrier to group health. And with that knowledge in mind, I'm proud to say that this summer we also finalized and launched the first group health insurance program for MRN with our partners at RBN Insurance. And while we're excited to offer such a comprehensive and competitive group health program to our members, we also realize that many of you, myself included, may not be aware of some of the required state and federal regulations surrounding group health or how to use those benefits to your competitive advantage. And so it brings me to our speaker today. This is why we invited Lisa Green, the Employee Benefits Executive with RBN Insurance Services. And you'll hear me refer to RBN Insurance Services as just RBN. Lisa's been with RBN since 2017, having previously worked as a corporate benefits manager with Coldwell Banker. She now heads up the Employee Benefits Department at RBN, advising clients on their benefits program and providing support to HR and management teams. And Lisa also oversees RBN's Employee Benefits Service team with her more than 30 years of experience in the industry. So we are truly excited to have her expertise here to guide us. But before we begin the presentation, just a few comments about questions. If you have a question or comment for Lisa, you may type your question in the chat box. Lisa will address it at the end of the presentation. Or alternatively, if you want to wait for the webinar to close, you're going to receive a short pop-up survey, which will also allow you to ask your questions. So please remember, if you can, to fill out that survey, as it provides us with valuable feedback so we can continue to provide you with the topics you want in future presentations. And now, before I officially introduce you to Lisa, we actually decided that we wanted to begin our presentation with a very short poll to learn a little bit more about all of our attendees today. And let me just launch this poll here. What we want to know is, what is your organization's current employee health insurance situation? Let us know if you have an active group insurance plan, no current group insurance plan, or if you have something like privately held individual or family coverage. And I am currently collecting responses. So far, we are 50-50 for no current plan or privately held. I'm waiting for a couple more to come in. We'll wait for another 10 or 15 seconds here for you guys to get your responses in, and then I will reveal the results. But it looks like we are split between 50% no current group insurance plan and 50% privately held individual or family coverage. So a little bit surprising that nobody has an active group insurance plan, but that's actually good news for you, and that's why we're here today, to get some of that valuable information about accessing a plan through Lisa. And I just saw one more result come in. We're actually at 67% that say they have no current group insurance plan. So with that, I am going to turn it over to our resident expert, Lisa Green. And Lisa, we are delighted to have you.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for that very nice introduction. Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. Wanted to just pull up here what the agenda is going to be on the call. The first topic we're going to go through is health plan options. Then we're going to be speaking later on the broker-client relationship. We also are going to be addressing what our actual partnership is with RBN and MRN, which Jamie already talked a little bit about. And then we also have, which we are not going to be speaking on, except I will point this out at the end, is a glossary of terminology. And this is just for anybody who may not know exactly what some of the terminology is, and it's there for your reference. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about are health plan options. And the way that I've structured this is the way I've been doing this for a very long time, and the way that the trend works is that when a person is thinking about health insurance, if your group or your employer does not offer health insurance, people tend to look to the individual marketplace initially. So if you don't have a group health plan in place, you or your employees probably have started off, and since 2008 when the ACA came on the scene, and Obamacare is what the term is that most people understand. It really changed the individual health market, and it did have impact on the group health market as well. But individual insurance is plans that you buy on your own, whether you're a single person or if you have a family. And you can go directly to an insurance company for this, or you can go through an agent. Just of note, if you do go through an agent, agents are extremely helpful because they are your go-between between you and the insurance companies. And insurance companies are large, and more often than not, when an issue does come up, it is difficult sometimes to get to the right person, whereas an agent knows exactly who to call. It doesn't cost you any more money in premiums if you go directly to an insurance company or have an agent. So I would really encourage anybody to have an agent, whether it's a local agent or our office, to facilitate that. There's also the state health insurance marketplaces. Every state has their own different, when they agreed with the federal government on how they were going to handle the new ACA regulations or Obamacare, there were states that created their own exchanges. A number of states use the federal marketplace, which is what healthcare.gov is. And that's where you can get subsidies and things like that. So we've got the state marketplaces. The individual mandate, for those of you that may not know, has been eliminated for tax year 2019. So if someone does not have insurance and you've done your taxes for 2018, the penalty, that tax penalty is still there. but it was removed for tax year 2019. So there is no longer a tax penalty for people not having insurance. So as far as we know, with how things are and the way that things stand today, politically, it has been eliminated and will be eliminated moving forward unless something changes. Another thing that I find that employers are not aware of is that per IRS guidelines, the IRS does not like employers to pay for individual health plans or reimburse their employees for individual health plans. What is allowed is a bonus up to salary, but that creates it could create a different tax situation. It affects, the employer paid portion of payroll taxes, and the employee also may be paying more taxes. So that gets a little complicated, and employers and employees really do not like that solution. The other type of products that are out there are individual underwritten products, and these products are generally less expensive. The policies are richer, and the network options are broader than the ACA Obamacare non-underwritten products. And we're going to give a little explanation in the next slide of what underwriting means, what underwritten versus non-underwritten means. Another form of coverage is Medicare. It's mostly for people who are 65 and older. A lot of people are familiar, even if you're not 65 yet, with what Medicare is. And then also people who are deemed disabled by the Social Security Administration also have access to Medicare. There are also short-term insurance policies, and the way those are, the differentiation between a short-term and a permanent policy is these short-term policies really are meant to fill the gap. Maybe you're waiting for the national open enrollment, which rates get released early November of every year, and the effective dates on the individual marketplace are January 1st. So if you have 3 months to wait and you need some coverage in between while you're waiting, these terms or these plans are, you're going to find very low cost, but they're also low coverage plans. They don't cover preventative. They don't have drug coverage for any prescription drugs. Pre-existing conditions are not covered. So it's really not, those are not plans to stay on for the long term. The very best type of insurance to get is an employer group health plan. These plans have the richest benefits. They have the best premiums from the individual marketplace. And employers select the insurance company they want to go with. They select the plans that they want. Employees enroll at the workplace. You cannot get to a group health plan without a broker. So you do have to, which is different than the individual marketplace, you do need an agent or a broker to get to the group market space. You can have you can cover your spouse, your dependents. Employees may be covered under a parent's plan, which would be another group plan, a spouse's plan, or under your own organization's plans. So I want to talk just a little bit about different types of group health insurance. There are non-underwritten plans, which means they're guarantee issue. Doesn't matter if you've got pre-existing conditions, everybody is accepted into a non-underwritten group health plan. Generally, and in most states, these are for groups that have 50 employees or under. Doesn't matter how many employees are on the plan, it's how many people you employ. They're community rated, so they are pooled with other groups in a region of your state with the book of business that the insurance company has. So claims don't hit your group individually, they are pooled. And so what that does is it brings the rates down since there are more people in the pool and the risk is able to be spread around. To be eligible for a group health plan, you need to have employees on payroll. There are exceptions because we have owners sometimes that are not on payroll. Owners are substantiated for a group health plan by either a K-1, there's some, Schedule Cs, there's different tax forms that the insurance companies use to show that you are actually an owner of a company and you don't necessarily have to be on payroll. But your other employees need to be on payroll. The definition of a full-time employee changed with the ACA back in 2008. It used to be a 40-hour work week. But for insurance purposes, it's 30 or more hours per week. It can be averaged out. It doesn't have to, you don't have to look back at last week if your employee is working more than 30 hours a week. They actually allow a 12-month look back where you can average, if someone is averaging 30 or more hours a week, to be eligible to be on the group health plan. Like I already mentioned, pricing depends on your state and the demographics of your group. Demographics means zip code and age. And like we said, generally non-underwritten group health plans have better rates. And if you do have a lower average rate of your group, if you've got a lot of younger people that are in your business and working for you, the average age goes down, and so the rates go down. So those are for non-underwritten plans. Again, generally, and again, there are some states that have the threshold of 100 employees rather than 50. Most states, the threshold is 50. But if you have a group of over 50 employees, those groups go through underwriting. Typically, applications are collected. There's also other ways of going into underwriting, which I will not go into specifics on this, but basically employees answer health questions and the insurance companies take a look because the pricing depends not only on the demographics, but it also depends on the risk that they see with claims, health conditions, prescription drugs that are being taken. Underwriting times are variable depending on your group size. And so at the end of this slide, we did note what medical underwriting means. And I'm just going to read this out loud. It's a process that's used by the insurance companies to determine the health status of your employees when you're applying for health insurance coverage, to determine whether or not they're going to offer you group coverage. Again, on the non-underwritten plans, it's guaranteed issue. They will issue it no matter what. It's different if you have a group that's larger. And then also pricing and some exclusions or limits may apply for that. Within the group health insurance market, there's different types of group health plans. Fully insured plans are the traditional structured plans that most employer groups have. And this is where your business gets a bill for the premium from the insurance company. You pay your premium. It's set on an annual basis. It renews once a year, so your pricing is set for 1 year, which could start in May, January. It all depends on when you start your group health plan. The employees are responsible for paying their deductible amounts, depending on what plans you choose as the employer, co-pays, co-insurance according to the policies. And also, the employer may, and most employers do require that their employees do have some skin in the game where they're paying a portion of the premium through payroll deductions. And those vary depending on an employer's budget, how much they think the employees can bear, and we see that all over the place. Your broker that would be one of the functions of your broker to advise you on the benchmarking, your industry, and things like that. So those percentages vary all over the place. So those are fully insured plans. Then for typically larger groups, groups that I like to see personally in the way over 50, I'm talking close to maybe 80 or 100 employees, because that's when it starts making sense. The employer actually takes on the financial risk of providing the healthcare benefits to their employees. They're administered by a third-party administrator as far as claims being paid, the benefits being administered. Usually the benefits are administered by the insurance company, and then all the other claims payments, adjudication of claims are handled by a third-party administrator. Claims are made through an employer's we set up a reserve account, but it's basically a bank account that is separate where you pay claims out of. And then stop-loss insurance limits are on these plans where your exposure it stops, and then the insurance company picks up if there are very large claims. And then those limits are set depending on how your self-funded plan is structured. There's also a type of plan that's out there. It's called level funding. And these plans are filed with the state that you're in by the insurance company as a self-insured plan. But the way that it looks to an employer is it looks like a fully insured plan. So the rates are set. You get a bill. You pay it once a month. But these types of plans, it's a good kind of in-between. If you are growing and you move from fully insured to self-funding, level-funded plans kind of give you more transparency. You get more information on claims that are going on with your employees, although names are always withheld because of HIPAA requirements. And we have a lot of groups that will go from fully insured, they're growing, they get into a level funded position, and then finally a self-funding if they grow large enough, and again, if it makes financial sense. One of the things that I feel is very important if you do have a group health plan in place, and this is for any size group, you can have a group health plan with 2 people on it. But if you have a group health plan that's in place, you are subject to ERISA requirements, and these are federal laws that that mandate what an employer needs to do to stay in compliance with your group health plan. The insurance companies do not handle notices. This is completely an employer-driven. This is on you as an employer, that you need to make sure that you're in compliance with ERISA. And again, if you have a broker that is savvy to all of these compliance issues, it's very important that you are compliant on the federal level and also on the state level, which is going to be the next slide that we go through. We've listed some sample covered notices. So if you do have a group health plan in place, these notices are required by the federal government. We made a list of them. Down below are some sample, there's some notices that have deadlines that are significant throughout the year. We did not list the deadlines, but we did list what those forms are. Some of them are not applicable to groups under 50. Some of them are. Form W-2, for instance, if you have employees, everyone is familiar with what that is, and you may or may not be familiar with some of these other forms. I would be very, very happy if my contact information is on one of the earlier slides, and if anybody needs to email me, call me, I'd be more than happy to explain any of these notices, but we wanted to give you a list of those to reference in the presentation. Like I mentioned, there are not only state requirements, but or not only federal requirements, but there are also state compliance regulations. We also listed those. Some of them do not have to do with employee benefits, but since employee benefits tie in very tightly with workers' comp, what your state regulations are, for instance, for overtime pay, drug and alcohol testing, family medical leave, they do tie in and are important, and we listed some of those there as far as state compliance. Our agency has access to a database of every single state and what their compliance is. And if anybody's interested in that, looking at what your state regulations are, again, we'd be happy to help you with that as well. Recruitment and retention, as far as employee benefits go, really they play a vital role in attracting and retaining employees. It reduces your turnover. Like it's noted here on the slide, it is easier to retain a quality employee rather than recruit, train, and have a high turnover because you may not have benefits to offer or they're too expensive. And we gave some statistics about employer-sponsored health plans and what people are looking for. Sometimes it's a very key factor in whether or not they're going to come to work for you. And so that's why having a plan in place, I believe, is very important. We also listed some employer-sponsored benefits that are outside of healthcare. And our office also takes care of those, but paid time off, a 401k plan, those are also important things to have. And actually, when they're done on a group level, they are very, very, very inexpensive. You'd be very surprised like how much a group disability plan costs. If you do it on an individual basis, it's expensive to get an individual disability policy. But when you do it as a group, it's a very, very low cost. Anything done through a group typically is less than when you do it on the individual level. So we want to look just for a few minutes here on the broker-client relationship. When you're working with an insurance broker, really you want to be able to take advantage of their knowledge and experience and make the shopping and selection process easier for you to avoid unnecessary costs. And that's where the experience comes in as far as marketing, finding plans, advising on plans. Employee benefit broker provided services that we really feel are important is that offering employee communications to help your employees make their decisions once a plan is in place is vital. Providing online access to policy and notice requirements. You do not, the notices that we talked about earlier and listed earlier, you don't have to do payroll stuff or actually hand these out to people anymore. You just need to give them access. If you have an online enrollment platform, which we provide free of charge for our employer groups, everything is housed there, so they're able to see and just have access to all those notices. I think it's important that a broker provides benchmarking information so you know what other companies in your industry are doing and what they're offering. Offering resources to help keep you in compliance with laws and regulations. We talked about that. And really, a broker should be more of a consultant and a partner rather than just a product-focused sales approach, offering analytics to help reduce your costs and risk, helping your organization to become a more educated insurance buyer. And also, the regulations are changing constantly. And with a new administration possibly coming in without us knowing what's going on the political scene, healthcare is a huge, hot item, as we all know, and changes happen all the time. And it's very important for your broker to be on top of that so that when things change, they need to know when that affects you. The RBN and MRN partnership, we've partnered, like Jamie had said earlier, to give you as a MedResults Network member exclusive access to the discounts that we have with our partners within the insurance company industry. And like I've alluded to throughout the presentation, we do provide guidance and support in choosing the best options. We also believe in really supporting and being your back office if you don't have an HR person to handle enrollments. We really pride ourselves in taking that off of your workload because we have all the resources here to do that. There's also other things that we do besides group and individual medical. We do dental, vision, short and long-term disability, group life insurance, and we wanted to make sure that those are listed there. The next slide talks a little bit more about the exclusive benefits that you get with the RBN and the MedResults Network partnership. And at the bottom, it shows how to enroll and how to get in touch with us. We wanted to make sure that we provided that. The next slide is just an overview of RBN as a whole. We have a very big property and casualty presence, with workers' comp, coverage of buildings, cyber coverage, and the biggest thing I want to point out is our national client footprint. We are licensed in 48 states through property and casualty and health and life, and also have extensive knowledge, state-specific. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about my agency is our national footprint and how we're able to operate very, very well in all of the United States. The next session is the glossary, which I am not going to cover at all because this is just for you to reference. And that is the end of my part of the presentation. And I am going to turn everything back over to Jamie. And I really appreciate and thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much, Lisa. The presentation was excellent. I certainly learned a few things that I didn't know about group health. We did get a question from a member in Virginia who referenced marketplace options. And basically mentioned that he had heard that Virginia no longer has marketplace options or shop coverage due to parts of the ACA being reversed. Can you elaborate on this a little bit?
And that is exactly right. What we have found, Virginia is not the only state that has done this. There have been other states that have actually closed down their own state marketplaces because it's just not sustainable. It's very questionable whether the federal marketplace is sustainable. There's been changes every single year where their networks are pulling out, insurance companies are pulling out of the federal healthcare.gov. But yes, that is happening, and it's changing constantly, and it changes every single year. Virginia, being one of those states, what happens is now you default to the federal marketplace, which is healthcare.gov. And if you need any assistance with healthcare.gov, once open enrollment starts on November 1st, I am constantly on the phone with helping people navigate through healthcare.gov, and it doesn't matter what state you're in once you're on the federal marketplace.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. That was the only question that was typed in. But certainly if you have any other questions following this presentation, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we will be shutting the presentation down, and then an automated survey is going to pop up, just getting your feedback about today's webinar and the content included. That will also give you an opportunity to ask some additional questions of Lisa. So don't hesitate to utilize that. Also, you can always reach out to me directly. I'm at janie@medresultsnetwork.com. And you will all receive a copy of the recording in the next hour or two. And if you have any other questions or need to reach out to Lisa, you may do that through me. But other than that, we want to thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you'll join us on future educational webinars with MedResults Network. Have a great afternoon.